Hi, you're watching Video 101 and I'm John Crossman. Today we're continuing our discussion about important characteristics that good editors have, and today we're talking about logic. A lot of people think they have logic, and many people do have logic, but when you're creating a communication it's very important that you are clear in your efforts, and logic helps you along the way. You can add greater depth to your editing if you understand how A relates to B, how B relates to C, how B relates to D, and D relates back to A. And so it's subtle. Some of these talents are subtle, but understanding, how you build a story, understanding the relationship and the logical progression of events and processes can help you tell a clearer story. And sometimes, a writer may get too close to the content. Sometimes a shooter, they might have to crawl under their fence, under a fence to get a certain shot. And if they were editing it, they would edit the whole story around the shot that was hard to get. But, I never lost an argument with a photog or a reporter because I always served the logic of the story. And if the story really didn't need the shot that you had climbed through the bushes to get, well, then I wouldn't put it in just to satisfy the photographer, because that's not my audience. My audience is the viewer at home. And does every shot help forward their understanding of the story? And so logically, you build a case like that. While this seems pretty simple on the front face of it, I'll tell you an example. I was cutting or involved in an edit. I wasn't the primary editor, but I was involved in an edit that was educational. So people are watching this to learn about leadership, basically, was the broad subject. And it was about how leaders think and how leaders act and how leaders move. And I had been given a rough cut from another editor and told by the producer would I sit through and go through this edit with the person. So it started, and I could follow it along, and then all of a sudden there was this group of scenes that was out of place. This wasn't exciting, dramatic footage. This was people, actually at this point I think they were standing around a kitchen having a discussion. And so, but all of a sudden it changed from that to something that really was out of the blue. And there was a couple of shots or a couple of sound bites, and then it went back to the kitchen. And when I got to that edit, I said, what is this? And they said, oh, that's foreshadowing. And I said, foreshadowing? Well, I know what foreshadowing is, but this isn't a drama. It isn't a movie. It is an educational piece that people are trying to follow a logical progression, so that they start with, this is what we're talking about, this is what we're going to talk about. This is where we're starting from, this is what we're going to talk about, and when you're done, you're going to understand, these 3 points about whatever it is you're going to understand. You don't use foreshadowing in that kind of a video. If you were telling a dramatic story and, you wanted to start at the end and then, jump back to the beginning, I know what foreshadowing is, but this was totally the wrong place to try to use that technique. And so that's where logic comes into play. Logic is understanding the relationship that you're building with your content as it relates to your viewer understanding it, and the deeper that you can, even though it may not always be apparent, I believe if you have a deep basis of solid logic behind your editing, it will create a more effective project. You're watching Video 101. My name is John Crossman. Thanks for watching.